Imagine Ukraine's hopes for powerful US missiles capable of striking deep into enemy territory, suddenly fading away. That's precisely what happened after a surprise phone call between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, casting a shadow over Volodymyr Zelensky's planned visit to Washington to discuss acquiring those very weapons. But here's where it gets controversial. Did this phone call genuinely influence Trump's stance, or was it merely a convenient excuse to avoid fully committing to Ukraine? According to Yuri Ushakov, a top Kremlin aide, Putin initiated the call and directly urged Trump not to supply Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles. These missiles, long desired by Kyiv, would dramatically extend Ukraine's strike range, potentially reaching Moscow itself. This call marks at least the 8th known interaction between Trump and Putin since the beginning of Trump's second term, continuing a pattern in the ongoing competition between Putin and Zelensky for Trump's attention and favor. The dynamic is complex. In the past, when Trump seemed inclined to support Kyiv and its European allies, a phone call from Putin often resulted in a noticeable shift in Trump's tone towards Moscow. Remember that time Trump voiced frustration with Putin and even hinted at providing Zelensky with Tomahawk missiles? Well, after this phone call, Trump seemed to backtrack. "We need Tomahawks for the United States of America too," Trump told reporters, emphasizing the need to prioritize U.S. needs. "I don't know what we can do about that." Then came the surprising anecdote. Trump recounted telling Putin, in what he described as a light-hearted manner, "Would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition?" Predictably, Putin didn't like the idea. And this is the part most people miss. Was this light-hearted remark a genuine attempt at humor, or a subtle signal to Putin about the limits of US support for Ukraine? Trump assured reporters that he would discuss the conversation with Zelensky during their meeting. Furthermore, he announced plans to meet with Putin in Budapest, Hungary, at a later date to attempt to resolve the conflict. Putin's spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, suggested the meeting could occur within a couple of weeks or later, adding that Putin had already consulted with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has close ties with both Trump and Putin, about the potential summit. Orban confirmed the discussions on X, stating, "Preparations for the USA-Russia peace summit are underway." But how exactly would Putin travel to Hungary? EU sanctions and airspace restrictions imposed after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, coupled with the International Criminal Court's (ICC) warrant for Putin's arrest, present significant logistical challenges. As an ICC signatory, Hungary would be obligated to arrest Putin. Although Orban has previously indicated that this would not happen, Peskov acknowledged the uncertainty surrounding the route, while Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó confidently asserted that Putin would be able to enter and leave the country without issue. "There is no need for any kind of consultation with anyone. We are a sovereign country here," he stated. Trump and Putin last met in Alaska in August, which did not yield significant diplomatic progress. Trump indicated that further high-level talks between Washington and Moscow would be held the following week, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, prior to the presidential summit in Budapest. The recent lengthy conversation between Trump and Putin appears to have diminished the momentum Zelensky had been building with Trump, making significant US support for Ukraine before the Putin meeting less likely. "Zelensky must be pulling his hair out," commented John Foreman, a former British defense attaché to Moscow and Kyiv. Today's meeting with Trump is now completely overshadowed and overtaken by the Budapest meeting. Trump also suggested that indirect talks between Putin and Zelensky might be necessary, contradicting Zelensky's desire for a direct meeting. "They don't get along too well, those two," Trump remarked. "So we may do something where we're separate but equal." Ushakov reiterated that Putin warned Trump that supplying Kyiv with Tomahawks won't change the situation on the battlefield, but would cause substantial damage to the relationship between our countries. Zelensky, upon arriving in Washington and meeting with U.S. defense contractors, has yet to comment on the Putin-Trump call. while some Ukrainian officials attempted to portray the situation positively, suggesting that Putin's outreach reflected his fear of new Ukrainian weapons. The overall sentiment in Kyiv is likely negative. Today's call between US President Donald Trump and Putin demonstrates how even the discussion about Tomahawk missiles had already forced Putin back into dialogue with America. Andriy Sybiha, Ukraine's foreign minister, wrote on X, "The conclusion is that we need to continue with strong steps. Strength can truly create momentum for peace." Despite Moscow's repeated claims of readiness to end the invasion, Putin has shown no sign of compromising or abandoning his maximalist goals. While Trump expressed optimism about achieving peace, Vice President J.D. Vance offered a more cautious assessment, stating that the Russians and the Ukrainians are just not at the point where they can make a deal due to a misalignment of expectations. He also said that a settlement remains possible but will require a lot more work. So here's the question. Is a peaceful resolution in Ukraine truly possible with such divergent perspectives and ongoing geopolitical maneuvering? And more importantly, whose interests are being served by these high-stakes conversations and potential summits? Share your thoughts below. Do you believe the US should prioritize supplying Ukraine with advanced weaponry, even at the risk of escalating tensions with Russia? Or is a more cautious approach, focused on diplomacy, the best path forward?